Rich Walker, would you like to come up and introduce the program?
Members of this club were instrumental 25 years ago in establishing the Edwardsville Community Foundation. And so it's been a while since we've had an update from the ECF. And so with that, I would like to join in welcoming Pam Farrar, who's the Director of the Edwardsville Community Foundation, who is here to give us an update. Okay.
Thank you, Rich, and let me say hello and good afternoon. I'm so glad to be here in person to say hello and share a little bit about the Edwardsville Community Foundation. I have to mention that my mother was a Rotarian for many years in Kirkwood, Missouri, and also Noah, we met a few weeks ago out at the SIUE campus, so you impressed me then, so it's nice to see you here today again. So they picked a good guy. Glad to see you. So, the Edwardsville Community Foundation, we are celebrating our 25th anniversary. And as Rich said, many of your members helped to not only establish the foundation, but really provided support through the years. So I'd like to also thank you for your support in terms of your sponsoring your donor advised fund, the Edwardsville Rotary Fund. Thank you for that. And the members that I just want to recognize here today are, we have Mark Shawshek, Rich Walker, of course, and Matt Warren, our current ECF directors. Matt just finished up his term as our chair, and Rich is currently our grants committee chair. Joe Malenk, Greg Coffey, Jerry Schutzenhofer, Rich Summer, our past ECF directors. Jerry and his wife, Pat, our current fund sponsors. Don Metzger and Jeff Westerhold's wife, Mary. Mary was on our board and chair. Tom Barton's wife, Donna, was on our board for many years and also served as chair. Dean Mefford's daughter-in-law, Karen, is our current chair. And lastly, Gary Coffey, Steve Ellsworth, and Olin Wetzel were also ECF directors. So I hope I didn't forget anyone, but thank you for your support through the years of the Edwardsville Community Foundation. So let's dive right in. How does ECF serve our community? We, as a community foundation, ECF accepts, manages, and distributes charitable gifts for the benefit of District 7 communities. Since its founding in 1997, we have dispersed more than $8 million to local charitable causes. Think of a community foundation as place-based charitable giving. ECF has a service region, which happens to be the boundaries of our local school district, District 7, and all of our charitable gifts benefit that geographic region. Our mission is to partner with donors to increase charitable giving through grant leadership, grants, and donor services. ECF is comprised of over 50 component funds. These are donor advised funds, scholarship, community support and project funds, and endowment funds. We, as an organization, value connection, building legacy, and investment in the community. We are a non-secular organization created so that everyone can make a difference in our community. So a few years ago, we had the beginning of what was the COVID-19 pandemic. And the directors and I responded with the creation of the COVID-19 Relief Fund. This was established to directly have an impact upon what was taking place at that time. So that unprecedented crisis moved us into action, and we created the fund in March of 2020. We started to receive grant applications online. Our grants task force convened. And in the meantime, we also did apply for grants to re-grant the funds back out into the community for relief efforts. We received 2 grants, one from the St. Louis Community Foundation, which does serve Madison County, and then the Illinois COVID-19 Response Fund. All in all, we have granted over $140,000 to 22 nonprofits, and that was over in 2020 and 2021. Disaster relief funds are common for community foundations, so that was something that the directors, really, established immediately, and we pivoted quickly to serve the community. Here are some of the COVID-19. There we go. Here are some of the COVID-19 grantees, organizations that I'm sure you recognize. I just want to highlight a few of what these grants covered, and some of this really reflects what was, of course, taking place at the time. For Edwardsville Neighbors, their grant covered wage losses for the service industry. The Glenhead Pantry needed emergency food for their increase in clients that they served. The Children's Museum, the Edwardsville Children's Museum, created take-home bags for children for reading and learning activities with their grant. Serving Area Kids, or SAC might be on the next slide. They provided lunches with fresh fruit for children and families when they were not in school. SAC still is continuing today. They primarily work during the summer months, but at that point, they were working during the school year to provide food for families. Pathways Counseling, their grant covered mental health counseling. They fall under the Illinois Baptist Children's Home and Family Services. And St. John UCC, their homework, help, and hoops summer camp was received support from a COVID-19 grant. So our relief fund went dormant for just a little bit of time. And then unfortunately, December 10th happened with the tornado that tragically caused the death of 6 individuals. So just as with COVID-19, ECF, the directors and myself, we moved quickly to support the community. The relief fund was activated. ECF became a conduit for information for the community regarding, really what was taking place on the ground at the time. We were collaborating with local leaders and different municipality leaderships in terms of emergency management and where were the unmet needs in the community. Again, grant applications were accepted and the task force convened, and the foundation received just tremendous support, not just from this community, but across the state and really across the country. We appreciate that generosity so much. I really can't say enough about that. Okay, so what's taking place right now? It's been a few months since the tornado. Our grants task force is currently making decisions, and we've received our applications. The decisions that have been made so far are a $100,000 endowed scholarship at SIUE at the School of Engineering. This is to help students who are going to be in the fields of engineering, to help prepare them to receive their education so that our communities can be made stronger and more prepared when those disasters strike. $500,000 has been earmarked to use as an endowment for future relief needs, and about $135,000 has been dispersed to individuals that were directly impacted by the tornado. Also, we've been a conduit for some in-kind gifts, such as gift cards that we are dispersing to members of the community who are affected. So, another type of fund that ECF offers to support the community are community support funds and project funds. And I think some of you here are probably familiar with these. These funds are set up to support community projects and initiatives In the case of community support funds, they're tied with the municipality. So examples of community support funds happen to be these few that were sponsored by the city of Edwardsville, primarily related to parks and recreation. The Corlew Splash Pad Park, the RP Lumber Center, Plummer Family Park, the Brent Lay Memorial Dog Park, and Schoen Park in the village of Glen Carbon. All these happen to be related to Parks and Rec, but these can be related to different initiatives in the community. Project funds are just that, an initiative, maybe a short-term project or a long-term project to support an initiative. And the CEO program fund is one. Able is a sponsor of that fund. For those of you, I think probably are familiar with the CEO program, a great program at our 3 area high schools to give a window into what it would be like to have a small business owner, and great program. And I bet you Abel has talked to you about that. Also, a new project fund is the Q and Brew Festival Fund. Q meaning short for barbecue. The Q and Brew Festival is taking place this fall. And so any fundraising dollars that go in to these community support or project funds are then reimbursed either to the municipality or help to cover costs related to those projects. So we think this is really just an innovative way to support community projects and allow community members to have an impact through charitable giving. Other community support and project funds. I'm just going to highlight a couple. Mitch and Friends has been around for a while. I think about 6 or 8 years. It is a tennis camp for special needs tennis players. It takes place in the summer as part of the Edwardsville Future Tennis Tournament at the high school. So again, charitable gifts come in and we can help support that event in the summer. Oh, the Raise the Flag Fund. This fund came from the vision of Gary Coffey. His family established this fund. A part of his vision was Gary wanted to support the flying and display of the American flag in our community. This fund has provided support to erect 3 flagpoles at the Watershed, Schoen Park, and Plummer Family Park. And I want to recognize that the village and the city of Glen Carbon provided great support on these 3 flagpoles. So it's these partnerships that we find are really fruitful. So we appreciate those very much. So it's because of donors like you and other members in our community that ECF can do all of what it does, whether it's our relief grants, whether it's our scholarships. This past year, we dispersed over $86,000 to help graduating seniors attend college, or innovative community projects. We couldn't do what we do without the generosity of our donors, so we thank you. And we encourage all members of our community to become an ambassador for good and support the Community Foundation. So, and my last slide is I couldn't do what I do without all of these folks on the screen, which are our current board of directors. I appreciate all that they do and their hard work. I don't think I mentioned that Rich is our current grants chair, so he has been working hard. These are the folks that I want to recognize and thank. And with that, I will pause and take any questions if there's time. Yep.
Is there a minimum amount that's required to start a donor advised fund? And what sort of activity has to take place between that to make it viable?
We ask, you could start it with any amount of money, but we ask that you bring it up to 10,000 within 6 months. And then you can advise a donor advised fund. For those of you that may not be familiar, it is a charitable giving tool that allows the donor to make advisements. So in your case, you have your Edwardsville Rotary Club donor advised fund. And when you all find a project in the community that you want to support, you then make an advisement and say, well, I'd like to give this amount of money to a 501c3 because it's a great project. So for anyone wanting to start a new donor advised fund, we just ask that you bring it up to 10,000 within 6 months, and then you can spend it down as you prefer. When it gets to be $2,500, we ask that you bring the total back up again. So, but that doesn't really tend to come into play much because our donors really are actively making grants in the community. So, good question. What else? Yes, our current, we have all of our assets at UC Bank, and they are our trustee. So we have advisement recommendations that we give to UC, and the assets are invested differently. Donor advised fund sponsors do get to choose one of 4 investment pools, depending on your risk level that you prefer. So donor advised fund sponsors can choose, but otherwise your charitable gift is invested according to our investment and spending policy. It's important to note that when one does make a gift to the community foundation, that the community foundation becomes the sole owner of the assets. Yes, donor advised fund sponsors get to make a recommendation and have that, little bit of control. But for example, if you would make a gift to the community foundation to support our grants, because we also give grants to general community support projects taking place. So if you make a gift to that, you're saying, I trust the community foundation to use this gift and to put it towards community grants. Donor intent comes into play with all of our gifts. When you make a gift to the foundation, you're probably making it for a particular purpose, and that purpose could be a direct support gift of the foundation. We are a 501c3, so all of what we do allows us to serve the community in the ways in which that we do. So I kind of went on a little bit, but I hope that answers your question.